Hi there, I am Kat Shaw. I'm an artist, I am a teacher, I am a priestess, I am a goddess lover, I am an activist, and I'm absolutely delighted to be speaking to you today. So thank you so much for having me here, and thank you so much for listening and watching. And I'm talking to you today about our self-beliefs and the intrinsic patterns that have been, drip fed into our brains. My talk is called Starting the Revolution, Self-Love Despite the Patriarchy. And this is something that's really, really, really close to my heart because it's something that I've been delving into for about the last 3 years. I'm actually gobsmacked, and I'm still doing it all day, every day, by the fact that so much of my brain and so much of my thought patterns and so much of everything that I believe, that I do every single day automatically doesn't come from my heart. It doesn't come from my soul, and it doesn't come from my authentic self. It comes from the outside influences. It comes from patriarchal society and the culture that we live in today. Those throwaway comments like, well, she looks good for her age, or, ooh, you've put a bit of weight, haven't you? Or, oh, she's got a pretty face. She shouldn't be wearing those things. Women should be quiet, seen and not heard. Be passive, be submissive, be in this box where society wants you. Because the balance between men and women still isn't equal. And this is because we live in a patriarchal culture. And this is what I'm talking about today, because every single thing comes with self-love. And if we don't have self-love, we are unable to reach our absolute fullest potential and be our authentic true selves. But it's really difficult to have that self-love and that self-worth and that self-appreciation in this society that we live in. Because as I keep on talking about this word, it is a patriarchal society. So what I'm going to be discussing today, how the patriarchy gets into our head, how culture and how society has seeped into our brains to make us believe certain things about ourselves. And then the fact that self-love and unpicking these is absolutely the key and the truth to be able to step forward in a way where we love ourselves and honour ourselves and appreciate ourselves and worship our bodies and actually know our worth, because that's what this all comes down to. The feeling that society makes us feel unworthy if we do not fit a certain criteria as women or a certain box as women. So hopefully that's something you'll be interested in. Before I start, let me tell you a bit about my story. As I said, I'm an artist. You can see some of my art behind me. I'm in my studio today, which is really, really a glorious place for me. It's a temple for me of adoring women's bodies and celebrating the divine feminine, and actually really feeling into this glorious energy that is womanhood in all shapes and in all sizes. Because I paint, I'm going to talk a bit more about this later, but I paint women into goddesses in order to empower them, in order to help them to really grab onto this fiery essence within that is their true soul, not what they've been told all their lives, not the behaviour patterns that they've been in all their lives, but their absolute truth. I'm 46 next month. I'm a single mum to a glorious almost 17-year-old daughter who is a really big part of my journey, actually. I'll talk about our life. Up until about 3 years ago, we had a very, very different life to what we have now. I'd been on a diet since I was 13 years of age, and as I said, I'm 46 next month. I was constantly on this grind to keep my body looking a particular way, because that's how I felt my worth. That's where I felt my worth was, in the way I looked, in my appearance, in my body. I am a single mum, so I'm very, very busy. I've always been very busy bringing in, the income and to be able to support me and my daughter. Busy life, grinding all the time, gym in the morning, ran every day, playing netball to a very high standard. My daughter played to regional standard, actually. Did Krav Maga, everything you could possibly do in order to try and keep myself looking a particular way. And about 3 years ago, we had a real life-changing, impactful time where my daughter and I were both diagnosed with EDS, which is a connective tissue disorder. The long name for it is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And at the time where my daughter was growing, she went through some very serious health issues with her EDS that resulted in her body actually shutting down and not being able to move due to pain and dislocations and stuff like that. So we were housebound for nearly 9 months the first time, and most of you have now been in lockdown 3 years later, so you know how it feels. Imagine that 3 years ago, not being able to leave the house, not being able to move, not being able to go to the shops, not being able to exercise, all this kind of stuff happened to us then. And also, as well as the stress and the pain of being a mum and watching my daughter go through that, came the anxiety, the lack of being able to get out, relying on people bringing food to our door, not being able to exercise, you know, being so stressed I wasn't able to follow any kind of eating plan or anything, which had been my restriction since I was 13 years old to nearly 30 years. And what happened in that space was that I put on nearly 4 stone, actually probably just over 4 stone in nearly 9 months, which is interesting because it was more than I put on when I was pregnant with my daughter. I just ate and comfort ate and crisps and grabbed anything I possibly could, because I am an emotional eater anyway, but I'd always really restricted that and really controlled that. Whereas I was in a time in my life where I could not control it, and I put on all this weight, and I was just horrified by myself. I was disgusted. I was looking in the mirror like, you're so horrific. How can you do this? How can you let yourself go like this? How can you have this rolls of flab on your body which are so disgusting? You know, this self-loathing, this inner dialogue was going through my brain every second of every day, because society doesn't lead us to believe that we can be worthy unless we are a particular size or unless we are a particular shape. And if we're not that shape, we've let ourselves go, or we don't fit into the box. You know, you open Vogue magazine, you open all these magazines, which are glorious magazines, and all you see is a particular shape and size of woman. You know, the ones with the pert breasts and the tiny waist and the minuscule hips and the thighs that don't touch, with the flawless skin, you know, and the no cellulite and the no stretch marks and the no scars and the no wrinkles. And these women look glorious. This isn't a talk about bashing these women down at all, because they look absolutely glorious. They look beautiful. But what society doesn't also tell us is that these women have probably spent 4 hours in makeup, they've had airbrushing, they've been photoshopped, and their job is to look like that. They're beautiful women, but they probably represent about 5% of the population. And if you don't look like that, you're not taught that actually it's okay. They're glorious, but as you are also glorious. You know, so I hadn't seen women that didn't look like that. I didn't know any other women that looked the way I did at that time, with extra rolls of fat, with a double chin, with like greasy skin where I've been eating so much rubbish, unwashed hair. You know, my boobs had definitely dropped. I was in a time in my life where I was just absolutely disgusted with myself, and I was looking in the mirror every single day with the lumps and the bumps and just thinking, oh, I've obviously lost my worth, because look at the way I look. Absolutely hideous. I really did think so lowly of myself. I was absolutely disgusted, because that's the way that we are conditioned to think. If we don't fit in, we've only ever seen in culture, in society, in the media, on social media, we've only ever seen one particular shape of woman. And it got me to thinking, actually, I'm having a really stressful life at the moment with my daughter, and this is a whole slice of extreme other stress that I really don't need to be thinking about. So I started to think, where has this come from? Where have these patterns come from? Where have these thoughts come from? Why do I not feel worthy 4 stone heavier? Why is my worth so intrinsically tied into my appearance? Why do I not feel like a goddess, like a glorious, amazing person that I am with this extra weight? Why is the fact that I'm trying so hard to keep my reality together and bring up my daughter and work and be all these things, why is that not good enough if I don't look a particular way? And this is when I started to unpick my thought patterns. And don't get me wrong, I'm still unpicking them because they're so deeply ingrained. But I've been born into this patriarchal world, this patriarchal society that defines women by the way they look and by their bodies. And this isn't okay. This is not okay at all. But we're not taught this. We just live with it because it's so ingrained into everybody's lives. It really is quite unbelievable. And the more you delve in, the more you think, actually, I don't actually think that. But this is the way I have been brainwashed to believe. And I started to draw myself because I didn't know what else to do. I was in this pit of self-loathing. So I actually stood in front of the mirror, looking at myself with tears like running down my face, drawing myself with the extra rolls and with the sagging breasts and with the, you know, like my shoulders were down where I was almost defeated by the world. And I looked at these drawings and I was like, this is really, I nearly swore them. I'm controlling myself. This is really heart-wrenching to know that I do not feel worthy looking like this. And I drew myself and I drew myself and I drew myself, and I constantly became this real self-love journey. And I painted myself and I added glitter, and then I could begin to look at these paintings and go, actually that painting is beautiful because it's glittery and it's lovely and it's glorious. And I couldn't quite look at my body, but I could look at myself as a painting. And that became the bridge, that became the stepping stone to actually walking on this path of self-love. And I was then talking to a friend about it, and I was saying, you know, this is what I've been doing. You know, it took a real lot of courage for me to show my friend these drawings because I hadn't seen anything like it. And when you do see something like that, it's normally ridiculed or shunned or like nose turned up or like, oh, don't show me that. That's disgusting. That woman's fat. And my friend was like, oh, this is what I look like. You know, I feel the same. Do you want to draw me? And I was like, okay. I drew her and she was like, this is amazing. And then she told her friend and she told her friend. And this is where the revolution began. So 3 years later, I've painted over 600 women. Some of them you can see behind me. I don't ever paint from my imagination. I don't paint from the point of view of this is beauty. This looks beautiful, so I'll enlarge her breasts or I'll move her nipples or I'll make her waist smaller. I don't do that. I paint from the beauty that is reality. Women send me their photos and I paint this reality because this is the revolution. This is the revolution against the patriarchy. This is changing people's perceptions of beauty and worthiness and womanhood, because this is reality. This is what I do. The revolution against every single restraint and chain that's kept us as women oppressed and small and silent and well behaved, and kept us in this thought that we must look a certain way to be worthy or acceptable. This is the revolution as well against women's bodies being sexualized, which I'm going to talk about later. That women's bodies should only be there for the male gaze and should look and behave in a certain way. I say no to that now because we are our own people. We can come into empowerment. This is the revolution to lead women to believing that they are worthy and that they are enough. Sometimes, though, this feels like a battle which can't be won. Just 3 days ago, my YouTube channel was taken down because I had paintings like this on it, showing female glorious bodies in all of their natural, curvaceous voluptuousness, showing their nipples, not in any kind of sexualized way at all. and I was told by YouTube that I was showing pornography for sexual gratification. My YouTube channel was taken down, and I appealed, and they came back and said, no, it won't be allowed to be there again, and you'll never be able to have another YouTube channel. This is the society we live in. We're sharing a painting of a glorious woman's body for empowerment becomes sexualized and seen as sexual gratification or pornography, and taken down and taken away from the eyes of society. And this is not okay. This is not okay anymore. This is not good enough. I've been fighting this battle for 3 years. I've been restricted. I've been censored. I've been shadow blocked. I'm shadow blocked on a daily basis. I have my posts taken down all the time. I've been blocked on TikTok. I've been blocked on YouTube. I've been blocked on Ko-fi, which is a site where people can donate to your art by buying you a coffee. I'm not allowed to be on there because obviously women's nipples are seen as sexual, only seen as sexual content. Just let that sink in for a second, that we cannot share the glorious empowerment of women's bodies because they are only seen as sexual, and they're removed and restricted and blocked. And I am silenced on a daily basis for talking about this, for being too controversial, for stepping up for women, for my body, for your body, for my teenage daughter's body, for all of our bodies, for our own selves to feel worthy in a society where we are led to believe that we can only be sexual, we can only be a certain size, and we can only look a certain way, and that's where our worth is. This is why I want to be the change. This is why I want to be the revolution. I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. And we need to stand together as women and know that we don't have to be a certain way. We don't have to do it the way that society says that we need to do it. Because we've never been taught to love ourselves. In school, we get taught maths and science and history and geography and times tables and spellings and algebra and perfect past, present tense. We get taught all this stuff, but we're never taught to love ourselves for who we are. We're never taught to be different. We're never taught that being unique is okay. We are only taught academia. And this is another way that our society really falls down, because we're then saturated. We're taught this in school. This is what you must be. And then we're saturated with images of women with pert breasts and tiny waists. Those ones I was talking about earlier. Those women who are glorious, but represent about 5% of women. And we're just left feeling not good enough all day, every day. I strive to see bodies that look like mine. I want to see real flesh. And I want that flesh and those bodies to be seen as acceptable. You know, Adele, the singer's just brought out her newest album. She hasn't released any music for about the last 3 or 4 years. And the media focused on the fact that she'd lost weight. Didn't speak about the songs as much. First of all, look at Adele with her new appearance. She's come back. She's come back after 3 years of not producing music, and look at her weight. She's dropped so much weight. Doesn't she look great? This is society, and this is not okay, because we are worthy regardless of our weight and our size and what we do. We are normal, and normalising normal is my revolution. That's what I want to do, so that you don't wake up and look in the mirror every day and think, I don't look like that, so I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm crying out for this, and I'm screaming inside, and I'm inviting you all to do this with me and to step onto this self-love path with me by questioning the patriarchy and by questioning society and by questioning your intrinsic thoughts. Which thoughts are yours and which thoughts belong to the patriarchy? I just know I'm not the only one. Like I said, I've painted over 600 women. 600 women feel the same as me because they have wanted to be painted in their glory, to become empowered, and to know that it's okay to not be just a sexual object that looks a particular way, to reach as many women as possible, to empower them and show them that the patriarchy is not the way it has to be. Your body is your choice. The way you look does not define your greatness. It does not define your soul. And it does not define the goddess, the power that is within you. That does not come with the way you look and the fact that you have to fit in society. So I started my journey as an artist, like I said, painting myself, and then started to paint other women. That became a set of 75 affirmation cards that I produced and published, and 200 sets sold within 6 months of these cards. These cards showing real women's bodies, real shapes, real breasts, real thighs, real stomachs, you know. It was magnificent. It took off so much. I couldn't actually believe it. And I'm so delighted. And then I went on to work on a project called And Still I Rise, because I was questioning beauty still. And Still I Rise is about women who have been through something. Women who have carry scars, either physical scars from, going through something like cancer, or illness or disease, or, car accidents or something, to women who are carrying emotional and mental scars, who have been through something like rape or sexual assault or, bereavement, or it just spanned all these women. I've painted 150 women in this project called And Still I Rise. And this is about rejoicing those women who think they're not good enough because they carry these scars. It's about turning it around and saying, actually, these are your war wounds. These are what make you you. And rather than focusing on the scars, let's focus on the strength here. These women were so empowered. And this was the quote from the project. We will not let the past define our lives. We will show the world that surviving can be beautiful. We are here, living, despite it all. We will always rise, and we will do so with great strength and dignity. We bow down to the universe, who is proud of who we are. We are the magical souls whose spirits cannot be broken and whose strength cannot be questioned. And that's a really powerful statement for a project, because as soon as I launched this project, it was for International Women's Day 2 years ago. Within 24 hours, it had gone global. It had women were writing the words "And Still I Rise" on their hands, and they were sending me the pictures, and they were sharing it with the hashtag "And Still I Rise." It was inspired by the Maya Angelou poem "And Still I Rise." Women were sending me photos of their faces with the words "And Still I Rise" written on them. And this all became part of the project. I had about 6,000 shares in 24 hours and over 500 messages from women all over the world saying, yes, this is me as well. I've never seen anyone with the same illness as me. I've never seen anyone with this. Yes, I've been through sexual assault. I can empathise. I can relate to this. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this. It was so powerful, because women don't know that it's okay. Oh, something nearly just fell off the roof then. It's okay, I'm back. We don't know that sisterhood and supporting each other is okay, because we're also built into this competition in the patriarchy. You have to be competitive. There isn't space for everyone. We have to rip each other down in order to build ourselves up. And this project brought women together as sisters in sisterhood. Some other projects I've done. I've turned my glorious goddesses into oracle cards to empower women every day. I've got projects called Growth, which is about glorifying and making stretch marks beautiful, where I paint women's stretch marks with glitter. I've got Blooming Gorgeous, which is another project glorifying pregnant women and the way our bodies are able to bloom and grow, because this is another thing about our society. Yes, you can become a mother, that's awesome, but within 6 weeks you've got to have got your baby figure back, otherwise you're not worthy, you're not good enough. Other projects, Get Real is another project, which is women just sitting in normal positions. It's easy to draw people like this or paint them like this, where you can stretch your skin out and not look, as roly and voluptuous as you would, but Get Real is about women in real positions. I carry on doing commissions. This is my latest project. This is my book called Changing History to Her Story, and it contains paintings of real women in all of their glory. With quotes from famous women who unfortunately aren't famous. Apologies, my phone just ran out of storage. So this is the second part of my talk. And I'm going to bring your attention back to this, my new book, because the reason I want to talk about this is because I also started to think about history. That's why the book is called Changing History to Her Story, because so many glorious women have walked before us and never been recognised or honoured for their part in the world, for making the world what it is today. So I researched and researched and researched and found all these women who had been absolutely fundamental in making the world what it is today. But because it's called his story, not her story, these women aren't recognised. And on the front cover is a quote from Virginia Woolf saying, "For most of history, Anonymous was a woman." Now, I want to change that, because again, that is another thing that comes within the patriarchal systems of this world, and that is not okay. So let me tell you what I'm allowed to post on social media. Men's nipples, naked pictures of men, or airbrushed perfect images of women. This is what I'm not allowed to post on social media. Women's nipples, even if they're painted. Unairbrushed, unfiltered photos of women's bodies, shared for themselves and their own empowerment rather than the gratification of anyone else. On a daily basis, I'm shown how messed up the world we live in is, and this is not okay. This is why I'm inviting you to join the revolution of self-love, despite the patriarchy. It breaks me every single day, but I know it's far too important to stop fighting. It's far too important because I need to fight for myself. I need to fight for my body. I need to fight for my space on this planet to be a woman and to love myself. I need to fight for my body as she cries out to be accepted the way that she is in society. I need to fight for my daughter, my teenage daughter, so that she can grow up and know that it's okay to take up space and to be exactly who she is. And I need to fight for the bodies of every single woman in this world, because it's important that we know our worth regardless. It's important that we love ourselves, even though we don't look the way we think we're supposed to look, or we don't behave the way we think we're supposed to behave. They're not our true, authentic self-beliefs. They are beliefs that have been dripped into our brain. I was running a self-love group at the beginning of this year, which, by the way, was taken down off of Facebook within 2 minutes because it had photos of women's bodies with the words "I am worthy" written on them. Not "let's kill some animals" or "let's do some, child trafficking" or anything like that you can find on the internet, but "I am worthy." And it was taken down. And I was writing a post and would written the word self-love, self-love, self-love over and over again. I thought, let me just check some synonyms for this. Do you know that if you go onto Word document and you type in self-love and you check the synonym, it comes up with the word egotistical? How is it okay in this society to be called egotistical for your love in yourself? How can that be okay? That you are called egotistical when you love yourself, when you honour yourself, when you value yourself, when you appreciate and approve of your body. That is not egotistical. That is survival. That is self-love. That is worthiness. It's so needed. It's so, so needed. And all I want you to take from this talk today is that you have been conditioned to not love yourself, and that's now not okay. Stand with me. Stand with everybody. Don't conform into this society where you feel like you need to look or behave or act a certain way. Take up space in your own right. Take up space in your own glory and honour yourself for who you are, exactly the way you are, exactly the way you are. My hope is that one day balance will be restored and women's bodies will be worshipped the way they should be, not hidden away because society deems them inappropriate to view. My hope is that one day balance will be restored between men and women. All of my artwork's a journey for me. It's a way to battle my own demons and to try to get my head straight in this society and in this culture that I live in, which constantly tries to put me down and push me down. Stripping back years and years and years and years of restrictions, of negative thought patterns, of constraints and of other people's beliefs, forcing me into believing in myself in a way that's distorted because it's their belief and not mine. And I hope to empower as many women as possible to reach their full potential in this lifetime, in this body, to be strong enough to stand up and say, this is me, this is the way I am, to normalise normal bodies so that women can look in the mirror at their own bodies and say, I am normal. And beyond normal, I am okay. And beyond okay, I am worthy. And beyond worthy, I am glorious. So hopefully you will join me in the revolution of self-love despite the patriarchy. As I said, my name is Kat Shaw. I am an artist, a priestess, a teacher and an activist. And you can find me on www.catshaw.art. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you for listening. Stand with me. Be the revolution. Be the change that you want to see in the world, regardless of the patriarchy. Much love to you all. Thank you for listening.